ክቡራን ሰማዕቲ ሎሚ ቀሪበ ልኩም ዘለኹ መፅሓፍ Dialectical Approach to Understanding Reality ዝብል እዚ ከዓ ዘንቱ መገታዊ ኣገባብ ኣቀራርባ ንተረድኦ ክውንነት ዝብል መፅሓፍ ስለዚ ብድምፂ እውን ቀፂሉ ዝቐርብ እሞ ንምግዛእ እውን ኣብቲ ሊንክ ኣቲኹም ተቐዳደሙ ሰማዕኹም የቐኒየለይ ጽቡቕ ምክትታል
Reality. Habta Miriam McCull. Preface. Think and act dialectically for basic change of life. Thinking and acting dialectically is the only clear way to understand reality, whether thoughts, emotions, or the material world. When dialectics theorize materialism, the combination of both dialectics and matter is a methodology of dialectical materialism, the foundation of the great philosophers. Generally, dialectical means universal laws of motion, development, and change of nature, society, and social ideas, including new phenomena and progress of the objective world. Dialectical refers to the balance between opposites. Dialectical thinking encourages us to consider that different things, which seem like opposites, can coexist and that they can combine to create a new truth. Dialectics does not accept anything as an absolute. It continuously asks dialectical questions for more research in any situation. This research helps people in a relationship can move into a more open, flexible stance. There is always more than one side to anything that exists. You can begin thinking and acting dialectically to find a new way to respond to your emotions, behaviors, or others in your relationships. This will help you find balance in your life and make changes to improve your life. When you begin to think dialectically, you begin to act dialectically too, and this can be a real game changer. You begin to see the bigger picture, which helps you plan things and make informed decisions. You become more adaptable and resilient. You become more emphatic toward others and yourself. You become more responsive rather than reactive. Dialectical thinking develops better control over your thoughts and emotions and emotional intelligence. Your conscious mind improves, and so will your cognitive abilities. You will also become more self-aware. You begin to think out of the box as you realize there is more than one way to solve a problem. This also helps boost your creativity. You become more responsive rather than reactive. You develop better control over your thoughts and emotions. This helps you develop your emotional intelligence. Our conscious mind improves, and so will our cognitive abilities. We will also become more self-aware. You begin to think out of the box as you realize there is more than one way to solve a problem. This also helps boost your creativity. You start focusing on the solutions rather than the problem. You become open to learning and growing instead of holding on to rigid beliefs and ideas. You start talking about responsibility for your life instead of playing the blame game. This is the basis of self-growth. You bring more balance and wisdom into your life as you are not thinking or acting in extremes. INTRDTTILN. Developing dialectical thinking in social life. To develop dialectic thinking, we need to start observing our own thoughts. In another way, we need to start looking into our thoughts, beliefs, assumptions, ideas, and perceptions from the perspective of a third person. When we do this, we are basically beginning to engage our conscious mind to question our unconscious thoughts and beliefs. Observing our thoughts this way will be a little difficult in the beginning. Understanding deeply and working slowly, analyze one rigid belief that we hold in our mind and try to look at it from a different perspective. The more we do this, the easier it will be for us to turn dialectic thinking into an automatic habit. Dialectical thinking may not make any sense at first. How can someone both want to be a mother and not want to have children? It is normal to have conflicting feelings about a situation. And with dialectical thinking, you do not have to choose one of those thoughts and ignore the others. You can hold them both at the same time. Dialectical thinking helps us to be more open-minded because we do not feel the need to defend our opinions so aggressively. Instead, we listen curiously to other ideas of people and see if they help us develop our own perspective. As dialectic is the universal law of motion in the objective world, its interconnection with matter is to be dialectical materialism. A philosophical approach to reality derived from the writings of the philosopher Karl Marx, the material world, perceptible to the senses, has an objective reality independent of mind or spirit. They did not deny the reality of mental or spiritual processes, but affirmed that ideas could arise, therefore, only as products and reflections of material conditions. It is clearly understood that materialism is the opposite of idealism, by which they meant any theory that treats matter as dependent on mind or mind or spirit as capable of existing independently of matter. For the philosophers, the materialist and idealist views were irreconcilably opposed throughout the historical development of philosophy. They adopted a thoroughgoing materialist approach, holding that any attempt to combine or reconcile materialism with idealism must result in confusion and inconsistency. The philosopher's conception of dialectics is the opposite of the metaphysical mode of thought, which views things in abstraction, each by itself and as though endowed with fixed properties. Dialectical logicians consider things in their movements and changes, interrelations, and interactions. Everything is in continual process of becoming and ceasing to be, in which nothing is permanent, but everything changes and is eventually superseded. All things contain contradictory sides or aspects, whose tension or conflict is the driving force of change and eventually transforms or dissolves them. The theory of knowledge started from the materialist premise that all knowledge is derived from the senses. But against the mechanistic view that derives knowledge exclusively from given sense impressions, they stressed the dialectical development of human knowledge, socially acquired in the course of practical activity. Individuals can gain knowledge of things only through their practical interaction with those things, framing their ideas corresponding to their practice, and social practice alone provides the test of the correspondence of idea with reality of truth. In the next chapter of this book, dialectics will deeply direct us to the branches of science such as sociology, ideology, social science, political science, and so on to approach them dialectically. Science is any system of knowledge that is concerned with the physical world and its phenomena, and that entails unbiased observations and systematic experimentation. In general, science involves a pursuit of knowledge covering general truths or the operations of fundamental laws. Science can be divided into different branches based on the subject of studies like anthropology, economics, physics, and the study of political, ideological, ethical, logical, biological, chemical, social, and cultural aspects of human behavior. Chapter 1: The dialectical process of thoughts and action. 1. Dimensions of life change. 2. Dialectical dilemma of thinking. 1. Dimensions of life change. Dialectical theories help us understand many of the predictable changes that happen to us, especially as young adults. Personal changes can happen as part of the developmental stages, but life change is much richer and much less predictable. Extensive research has related life change to the onset and intensity of physical and mental illness. Attention has recently been focused on the dimensions of life change, the significance of the degree of change versus the desirability of the change, with conflicting results. The purpose of dimensions of life change reveals that life change has three dimensions: the degree of change evoked, the desirability of the change, and the life area in which the event occurs. The analysis also indicates that while the life change data are multidimensional, the quantitative dimension, degree of life change, is more primary than the qualitative dimension, desirability of life change and area of life change. Several theories allow us to explain organizational change and development. These proposals can be grouped in different ways. According to a framework designed under mode of change criteria and unit of change criteria, we define 4 ideal change engines: 1. Life cycle theories, 2. Evolutionary theories, 3. Dialectical theories, and 4. Teleological theories. First of all, we will describe each of them. Stage 1 theories, dialectical theories, change because of conflict. These theories are characterized by the assumption that organizations exist in a plural world of forces and events constantly shocking and competing for domination and control. This opposition can be treated not only from an internal perspective, but also taking into account the external forces of the organization. In these theories, stability and change are explained by the balance between power and opposing forces. Changes are produced when one of the forces excels and breaks the status quo. There are two main approaches in this current: the Hegelian perspective of permanent conflict between the thesis/antithesis and the attainment of a synthesis as an outcome. Stage 2 theories, life cycle theories, regulated change. Stage 2 theories. This theory adapts the metaphor/analogy of organic growth to organizational context as a tool that permits us to explain different stages of development. Some theories can be framed in this group: developmentalism, ontogenesis, and metamorphosis according to life cycle. We can state three fundamental groups. Developmental model. Change happens during a cycle always composed of the emergency stage, growth stage, maturity stage, and decline stage. Scenario model. It assumes the previous sequence of development, but modifies it, introducing different phases where the managers make decisions. Metamorphosis model. It is halfway between theories of development and evolutionary theories. They postulate that changes occur when the structure of the organization does not fit the environment. In development, theories are the key to successful internal restructuring, while in metamorphosis models they state that change occurs abruptly rather than gradually. There is a misunderstanding in presuming that evolutionary models only undergo soft and incremental changes in an organization. There is no pre-established rate of change in evolutionary models. In this way, metamorphosis models can be classified as a specific case of an evolutionary model. Another kind of division could be composed according to whether the generative mechanism is regulated by natural, logical, or institutional norms. If the mechanism is regulated by natural or logical forces, determinism is much greater than if it is by institutional ones. These theories emphasize a lot the sequentially well-defined and unavoidable stages, where each one of the posterior states depends on a group of outputs framed in previous cycle stages. Thus, they are theories with a prominent deterministic component. The scope affects usually one entity. Nevertheless, some models not only fit into the organization as a unit of analysis, but also are used with a higher unit of analysis instead of the organization. Stage 3 theory, evolutionary theories. This framework understands evolution as the set of changes accumulated in the structural forms of organizations, communities, businesses, or society in general. Analogously to evolutionary biology, change comes from cycles of variation selection and retention. In the first, variations occur randomly and simply happen. Selection is produced because of competence for scarce resources. The ecosystem selects best fit entities. Finally, retention allows perpetuating or maintaining some kind of successful changes, so it is a firewall of the feedback effect in this process. In this frame, the change is recurrent, accumulative, and explained by probabilistic distribution inside VSR, variation selection retention, processes. It exists on several currents inside the evolutionary theories field. We stress the division between Darwinism advocates, establishing that the traits are inherited through intergenerational processes, Hannon and Freeman McKelvey, and Lamarckian supporters who consider traits like features acquired in a generation by means of learning and imitation, Weck, Bergelman. The last approach, a priori, seems more appropriate in an organizational scenario than the strict Darwinism. These theories explain the change from a multi-entity perspective, and in terms of the degree of determinism/voluntarism, there are theoretical currents with a high degree of determinism, such as population ecology, and other more deterministic ones, such as evolutionary theory. Stage 4 theories, teleological theories, intentional change. Another school of thought is the teleological theory. Examples of these approaches are functionalism, decision-making, epigenesis voluntarism, adaptive learning, and so on. The teleological theories are characterized by representing an organization directed towards specific objectives. Stage 4 theory. It is determined and adaptive and structures its actions aimed at an end, monitoring the way. The development is given by a constant reformulation of those objectives through a constant feedback cycle based on the perception of an organizational problem. These approaches have a bigger voluntarist component than the life cycle ones and interpret the development and organizational change from a single entity point of view. The reality of the change is a little more complex. Although we have defined 2 variables on which we have characterized 4 change engines, the increasingly complex organizational contexts make it necessary to use several engines to explain more exactly what is happening. In addition, the need to analyze more extensive series temporarily increases the likelihood that more change engines will come into play. Let's illustrate this statement with several examples. It is plausible that in some contexts, the synthesis of the opposition described by the dialectical theories is used as the origin of a variation within the cycle of evolutionary theories. The process of selection in the evolutionary cycle can be used to equate it with the final stage in life cycle theories. Thus, new theories have emerged that can be characterized by the defined framework associating several change engines. Nested, the engines of the lower level of analysis are firmly linked to the higher level, serving functions to them. Both the upper and lower levels influence each other, but there is no well-defined and solid process that unites them, so they are not as synchronized as the nested ones. Aggregates, when the action of several lower-level motors ends up constituting a process of the higher-level motor. Therefore, there is a high dependency on the high-level engines of the low-level ones. To sum up the 4 stages together. 2. Dialectical dilemma of thinking. Every life change begins with a creative dilemma. That is a situation requiring a choice between 2 difficult alternatives. Dilemmas come in many different forms and many different sizes, and you do not need to be a settlement to face one. We will encounter creative dilemmas throughout our lives. The only question is, how are we going to respond to them? Creative drama is a creative problem that explains what you want to do, not what you need to do. Creative problem solving is a technique to approach a problem or address a challenge in an imaginative way. It helps us flex our minds, find path-breaking ideas, and take suitable actions thereafter. The creative problem arises of tension between our current reality and a sense that things can be different. It presents a choice between a known and an unknown matter. It poses questions such as, did I act or not act on this choice? It is resolved by our commitment to create something in our lives that did not exist before. It launches us into the exploration dimension. Often we come across a dead end while trying to solve a problem at the workplace or home. Either our understanding of the issue is wrong or we fail to approach it correctly. To be an effective problem solver, you need to bring in creativity to travel from the current situation to the desired one. We often associate the word creative with certain jobs like writing, painting, designing, etc., or activities like solving puzzles and word games. Well, actually, any process that involves finding new solutions and a new approach, instead of following a routine method or an established solution path, is a creative process. So, whether you are a student, a professional, or a businessman, creativity helps in addressing several of our challenges in an innovative way. For many people, creative dilemmas form around a yearning for personal expression. When we are learning and tapping into our creativity, we feel alive and energized. When we are not learning or using our creativity, we feel stagnant. Creative problem solving is a technique to approach a problem or address a challenge in an imaginative way. Most of the time, we block our minds from thinking differently and find it easy to follow a certain norm so as to find quick, easy fix solutions. However, in the long run, these shortcuts and conventional approaches do not prove to be effective. Creative problem-solving tools help us flex our minds, redefine the problems we face, find path-breaking ideas, and take suitable actions thereafter. It's all about overcoming our mind's conceptual blocks and finding multiple solutions to effectively solve a problem that we face. While creative problem solving is a structured approach, it gives users the flexibility to use it in innumerable ways for different kinds of situations. One classic example that demonstrates creative problem solving is the story of the Wright brothers, who, despite their several failures, learned from their mistakes and overcame the challenges of wing shape and warping to make flying possible. They didn't give up easily. Instead, they put a lot of time into studying the problem and experimentation to finally build the first successful airplane. Understanding the basic concepts of creative problem solving, CPS, is important in the overall adoption of this technique in our daily lives. Creative problem solving can be divided into 6 steps. 1. Objective finding. Identifying the goal or challenge and defining our desired output is the foundation to the CPS approach. Sometimes we ignore certain important things about the problem or assume something to quickly solve it. This clouds our thinking process and we fail to look at the big picture. Defining the objective or goal gives a clear idea of the problem so that we can explore several solutions to it. 2. Fact-finding. Gathering information on the problem and related data is crucial to understanding the problem. List down important details like who and what is involved, perceptions and assumptions, facts and feelings, opinions of interested parties, etc., so that you can start forming ideas. 3. Problem finding. From the gathered data and objective of the problem, find out the challenges that you might face and the various opportunities that exist inside of it. This helps you focus on the problem at hand. It's very easy to divert from the objective and find answers to the wrong problems. 4. Idea finding. It is very easy to reuse a solution when we face a problem that we might have encountered before. Our mind comes across what we call conceptual blocks that consist of hurdles like constancy, commitment, compression, and complacency. These stop us from thinking creatively and forming new ideas or concepts. Therefore, it's very important to explore, brainstorm, and find as many potential solutions as possible. 5. Solution finding. Once you have generated new ideas and listed down possible solutions, evaluate them to find out if they meet your criteria for success and whether they can be implemented. Improvise, strengthen, and choose the best idea. Solutions should not only be creative but useful too, and sometimes is the only solution. 6. Acceptance finding. You have chosen the best possible solution that is actionable and meets the success criteria. Now you need to plan your action steps by clearly defining responsibilities and finding the best way to use the resources at hand. Your call for action needs to be understood by everyone involved in the problem-solving process to make it an accepted solution. Creative problem-solving skills are built over time by way of practice and using it in our thinking and working process. You may start small by using one step at a time to understand its effectiveness. Once CPS becomes embedded in your thought process, you will find the various benefits of this approach. CPS helps us achieve higher performance in our jobs, solve problems effectively, and find new opportunities hidden in the very problems that we are trying to solve. Creative thinking is embedded in various aspects of our lives, from problem solving to designing, marketing to business development, or innovation to research. You'll be amazed to know that history has several examples wherein creativity helped in the formation of revolutionary ideas and inventions. Chapter 2. Resolving a Creative Dilemma. 1.
ክሳብ ሕጂ ምዕራፍ ሓደ ክትሰምዑ ፀኒሕኩም ቀፂሉ ዝመፅእ ምዕራፍ 2 ይኸውን። ይቐኒየሉ።